Hey, everybody. So excited for you to hear this amazing interview with my buddy Jeff, but also super excited because we are officially 4 days away from our next free 5-day LinkedIn intensive. So click the registration link in the description of this episode, and we hope to see you there and also enjoy this incredible interview with my buddy Jeff. Networking and marketing made simple is for you, the business owner who has a product, a service, or a message that you believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind-the-scenes look into the real-world marketing and networking tactics and strategies for getting what you have in front of you to a lot more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and now let's get started. So welcome back to another episode of Network Marketing Made Simple. Super excited. Got another interview lined up for you guys. I am here with Jeff Perdue Atkins, and why I'm really excited to talk to Jeff today. Obviously, we met in a group that we're both in on Facebook, and I just put something out there. Let's do a pod swap. Let's network. Let's help each other's businesses. And he was gracious enough to allow me to come on his podcast and talk. And again, it's only fair that I give the person the same opportunity they gave me. And the big thing that I love about Jeff and what he does for a profession is that it all revolves around systems and accountability, which any of my clients that are listening to this, I am always talking to you and helping you being more accountable, but also creating systems and workflows where things are streamlined and it makes your business that much more effective. So first and foremost, Jeff, welcome to today's episode. And number two, tell the audience who is not familiar with you and what you do, what it is that you do for a living and a profession and how you help others. But more importantly, how did you get into the entrepreneurial space? There's always that impactful moment where you're like, you know what? I'm going to wave the white flag on working for someone else, and I'm going to do this for me. And just take us through that journey.
Yeah, Scott, thank you so much for letting me be here. I'm so excited to be here. Really what started was, it started out that I was working for a restaurant chain. I had worked through the restaurant. I was the sales coach. I had a position that I literally wrote the job description for 4 years ago. It went all the way through corporate and came back down. So, like literally, I was in my dream job and I loved it. It was great. It was wonderful that they sold us into franchise and they said, we don't need you. Now, I donated $2.5 million to the Detroit Zoo, which at the time was getting ready to close. I had raised the reason why it actually sold was because of all the work that we did. We were at 20% up from year over year sales. Like everything that I did was a huge impact. And they took me out and they're like, okay, well, we're going to put you back in the store. I didn't want to be in the store. So I took over a store. I did really well. Within a year, I doubled the sales. I did everything I was doing before in one location. So I got really focused. And they said, okay, well, we want you to work in a different store. Well, this store they wanted me to not be, they didn't want me to be a general manager. They brought me in as an assistant manager so that the other manager could retire gracefully. She was older. She couldn't handle it. It's not that she couldn't handle it. Her body was literally physically, she was having issues and she was supposed to leave within 3 months. Well, she decided she was going to stay for another year so she could get a different retirement rate at that point. And it was just, I was fighting everybody. Like the staff is crazy in that store. It's well known that it's just one of those places. It's like a disaster zone. It's right on the edge of like one of the worst parts of Detroit. That part of Dearborn is very ethnic, and I am not of that ethnicity. So it becomes this like battle zone in that store. And then I was fighting with her because she was telling people they didn't have to listen to me because I had a different way of running things that worked. And so it became this big, huge mess. I wasn't getting the support I needed, and I was really contemplating suicide. So I got out there. I realized, I worked for the company for over 10 years, solid. but 20 years total, off and on. And I left there. I started my own company. I was working with authors and things like that, helping them really self-publish and doing a lot of graphic design, a lot of web design, stuff like that, which I've been doing for years. I just started doing it by myself. And as I started doing that, I got very involved in the Spiritual Life Center of Ferndale, which was technically a Unity um, church, and really got into a spiritual space and started learning some things, and it really changed everything, So then I started working with Landlord Worldwide, and from there I've started coaching myself, and you know, and the rest is history, kind of.
So, obviously everyone has a story behind how they got into what they're doing, and it's those lessons that we learn through the situations that kind of pave the way for what we're going to do and how we're going to help other people. So, with working for that company for off and on 20 years, and then going out on your own and launching your own business, what do you think was the greatest lesson that you took away from working for someone else that has allowed you to step into being your own boss and now running your own business?
Yeah, well, I've been in management since I was 18, so I was one of the youngest managers of the company. And what really made a difference was systems. When you run restaurants, you learn systems are important. Like if you don't have a system set up and it's not duplicatable, then you're just shooting yourself in the foot. And yes, each restaurant might have a slightly separate system that works for that restaurant, but in general, the system's a system. And one of the things I found with working with coaches and things like that and creatives is that they don't have a system set up that they're really following through with, especially things like a closing system. Like you don't have a closing checklist. And so they don't turn off. They don't close. They're on 24/7. And so they're always working. And that leads to burnout, that leads to all kinds of horrible things. Um, with someone I was working with before, she started having seizures. And we really learned the value of having time set aside for you and being able to turn off and having a life.
It's that the struggle that a lot of people have is that work-life balance, and there never is a complete balance, but there should be some sort of synchronicity in when you start your workday, when you end your workday, and making sure that you're taking the other time that you have for yourself. And I shared this on your podcast that my big goal every year is to take 180 days a year off. So meaning working half the year and not working the other half of the year. And, obviously sporadically throughout the weeks. And that's my big goal, because I don't want my work to be my life. I want my life to be my life. And sometimes it's all about working smarter and not working harder. So obviously preventing burnout and doing all those things and putting systems into place. And I love duplication, because once there's a crack in the foundation of whether it's a company that you're working for or a team that you're managing and running, once there's a crack in that foundation, that's when things can really fall apart. So with, you work with a lot of entrepreneurs, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. What's the reoccurring theme or trend that you're seeing in why it's so difficult for people to create those foundations or the systems that they need to put in place?
I don't think people focus on it. So a lot of people focus on the marketing side because everyone thinks, oh, I need to bring in more people. I need to bring in more people. I need to bring in more people. But they're not really dealing with how to manage that flow and how to really take care of that system on the back end of that, all the way through accounting. So I know coaches that have been in business for 5 years that I set up an accounting system for because they never had one. I'm like, you've been in business for 5 years. How have you been doing this for 5 years? Well, we kind of like do this. And it just becomes, it's so out of focus for people because everyone thinks of the front end of everything. And when you really have your back end system set up, they run themselves for the most part. It's just about, and then you can focus on your front end and not setting up. People don't say, hey, you need to take time for you. Hey, you need to schedule around your priorities, not work, because you're so used to having, okay, work is the first and foremost. If you're an employee, you have a work schedule, and that normally comes first. But when you work for yourself, that's not necessarily the case. What comes first is your family, what's important to you, your health, your sanity, and then schedule around that.
No, I couldn't agree more. And as my wife and I and our business has expanded, we've had to expand our team to make sure that there are things in place. Um, there are some things that I definitely enjoy doing back end wise that a lot of people would not, and that's okay because the one thing that's really helped us is understanding how the back end works. And I think that's another mistake that a lot of people make is number one, they don't have a back end system. Just like you said, they have the front of the house, but they don't have the line cooks in place to make sure the restaurant is running smoothly. But once you have the back end in place, once it gets outsourced, you still need to know how it works because if there's a kink in the hose, if something happens and it needs to be fixed, you have to be able to jump in to figure out exactly where things got lost in translation. And, most of my listening audience are entrepreneurs. And I think a great deal of them, to your point, are focusing too much on the front end of their business, which is the marketing, making sure they're visible, making sure that they're showing up every day on social media, which, yes, is important. That's the front of the house. But, you know, is your business not growing? Not because you're not showing up, but is it because you don't have things streamlined and systematized on the back end? So like you said, there's a flow to the business. There's basically dams and kinks in the hose all over the place. So there can be no flow for your business. So, and again, you work with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of coaches, speakers, authors. What's the most common reason why, before they end up working with you? What's the reasoning or maybe the misunderstanding that people have about having a systematized backend that they need to understand?
It becomes overwhelming for people. It is a lot. I'll be the first to tell you, systems suck to set up. And I mean, I will be the very first person to tell you that's why I have a step-by-step system. I use one platform. I use Zoho One for people. And the reason why is because it literally goes through and it has everything you need, no matter what kind of business you are. It has everything you need to run that business. And it all reads to each other. It all communicates with each other. I don't have to use Zapier 50 million times to piece together some system that works, right? And what ends up happening is that people see, even when they go into Zoho One, there's 50 different programs that it's really truly is an operating system, and they see that and they're like, oh my god, what do I need to do? Well, as a coach, you really need about 6 of those programs out of the 50. Yes, there's some that you can add on if you are so inclined. But there's 6 core for that. If you're a podcaster, there's 3. Really 3 or 4, right? That really makes sense for you, right? And what happens, so as you said before, I run a podcast. My podcast runs almost automatically. So I'd come in, they set up an appointment, they fill out a form, it gives me all my show notes. Yes, I have to copy and paste them onto the site only because I chose to do it that way. I could set up a form that automatically populates my site too if I really wanted to. I think it's a pain in the ass. Um, again, knowing which system, right? Which parts do you want to put in? But it literally takes me 5 minutes to set up my actual episodes. It's all done. I have all the information I need for them, and I go through and I have some background for people, which is really nice. But with my coaching business, I have a form that they fill out, so they actually go through and um, I have a whole system to see where they're where they really need to focus. and it's an assessment. They do the assessment. I know kind of where the kinks are, and it's all really simple. I can go and I can focus on those kinks with them. I can send them the videos that actually work with that, and it's really individualized, And then I have an accountability program that says, "Hey, did you do this? What is it that's important to you? What is it that's important? What is it that you want to achieve in the next 90 days? And let's really go after that."
So in regards to, putting all those systems together, what do you think is the one area, um, back end wise, of people's businesses that they don't have a back end for? Because there's different things that you can have a back end for, but what would you say if someone was to get started with systematizing their back end and understanding how to put a workflow into place? Where should that person start immediately with getting that one aspect put together?
Your accounting system. Start with accounting. Get a good accounting program. You could do QuickBooks. It's expensive. There's other ones out there. I literally use Zoho Books. I use Zoho for everything, again, because it all reads, right? And I don't have to paste, and there's ways to do it. Any way you come up with, there's ways to do it. But I'm telling you, I haven't found anything easier. So you go into Zoho Books, you connect your bank account to it, and then every week you go in and you just go and say, okay, I spent money on this, this, and this. What was it? And you put it into a category it needs to go in. At the end of the year, you run a report. It takes you about maybe 10 minutes to clean up a couple things because you're not always perfect in your. So for me personally, I stopped doing my Mondays about a month and a half ago. And so I have some stuff I have to go and sort. Okay. So that's going to take me a couple hours, but a couple hours compared to a couple days worth of accounting to do your taxes. And it's tax time at, at the time we're speaking. So literally, it's you run your two reports, hand it to your tax preparer. They'll be done in about 25 minutes. They can walk back to you. Start there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the one thing, when Nancy and I formed multiple LLCs, we had to get more clear about, where the money was going, how it can be categorized. And again, depending upon who you bank with, and, I bank with a certain bank that auto categorizes my spending, because basically it's a business account. And when you pay certain vendors, you can categorize what type of vendor it was. So at the end of the year, you can print out that PDF that basically says, here's where your spending was for travel, here's what you're spending for dining. And yeah, and it's important to have those systems. And I think what a lot of business owners, especially if you're an LLC, is, you're when you're taking payments, or you're getting paid by a third party. So if you're in network marketing and you're getting paid by the company that you're working for, or you're an author like myself on Amazon, you get a 1099 at the end of the year from the people that paid you. And again, if you're not setting up quarterly payments for your taxes, if you are not properly understanding, the net versus gross revenue by the end of the year, I know so many horror stories of people that spent more or just as much as they were making. They weren't properly allocating money. So, Nancy and I, we literally have about 6 different bank accounts that have a representation for different things. We have 2 quarterly tax accounts. We have 3 active business accounts, and we have 1 general savings that it's called our Operation Debt Free account. So when it reaches a certain level, we shift some money over and we pay off, send off a couple extra payments to our cars, or an extra mortgage payment, whatever it is. We can choose to do what we want with it. And it's having that kind of system and organization in place that will not only keep you profitable, but it will allow your business to grow. So Jeff, for the new entrepreneur, because the seasoned entrepreneur might, have some of this in place, but that new entrepreneur that's hearing this, that is very overwhelmed right now. They don't have the revenue to maybe onboard someone like you or I. What is a done for you way, a step one before they get to Jeff and how he can help them? What's that first step that you would recommend someone to take to start to get some sort of organization on their back end. So when they do show up on your doorstep, it's seamless of how they can just plug into what you're doing and they're off and running.
Go and literally go and do Zoho One. Go to Zoho One today and sit down and go, okay, because the reason it's funny because the reason I say that is because literally it has everything you need, no matter who you are. I know accountants that use it. I know coaches that use it. I know ways for if I was running some kind of e-commerce, I would be able to use it. Literally everything is there. And sit down and say, okay, so how do I do this? And I actually have a form that I have people fill out that goes through, how do I collect leads? How do I send out emails? How do I keep track of my sales flow? How do I keep track of my accounting? How do I it's escaping me. I wish I had the form in front of me now. But it literally goes through all the way from how do I start getting leads? How do I start talking to people? Am I working online? Am I a subscription service or am I individual services? Do I have a la carte stuff? And using that whole spreadsheet, that whole form, it tells you exactly how to move, what programs to use, and how to actually move forward. Really,
Well, I'll absolutely put a link to Zoho One so people can kind of peruse around and take a look at it. So before we start to wind down the episode, Jeff, for people that are looking to systematize their back end, understand how to get their accounting in place to have it more self-sufficient and clear, how can people best get in touch with you and how do you work with individuals?
Actually, the easiest way to get a hold of me is to go to trueawesomelife.com. Pretty much anything you need, any way you can possibly get a hold of me is there. It actually follows a lot of my journey. I'm nomadic at the moment, so with me and my dogs. So I live in a fifth wheel. That's a lot of fun. And getting ready to go and travel to US as soon as I could get out of COVID. And COVID has kind of stopped that whole idea. But just really trueawesomelife.com. You can also look at me at Facebook. I'm Jeff Perdue Adkins. If you do a search, I'm there. And yeah, I'm always looking to talk to some great people.
Awesome. And I'll put all of that information in the show notes for all of my listeners to be able to contact you. So final question before we end today's episode, Jeff, what does success truly mean to you?
Success means to me just really being not having to worry about money, not have to worry and having an impact on people so that my whole life is revolved around helping you design your future and really bringing people up. It has been for the last, 10 years, really, is how to bring people to their best self in whatever way that looks like. And I've went through working with people on life coaching and stuff like that. And I realized that what's really missing is having the systems and the back end systems. So that's why I can find you a great life coach, but you're not going to find anyone that can do what I'm doing right now.
No, that's awesome. And again, I love how success means different things to different people. But whenever I ask that question, it all comes back to serving other people, and it's not necessarily attached to a monetary goal. The money shows up when the impact is felt, and I think that's what's most important for people to understand. So, Jeff, thank you so much for being on the program today. I know after today, a lot of people are going to be thinking about how unsystematized their back end may be and how much they truly could benefit from working with someone like you. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Scott. You have a great day.
Thanks, you too. So everyone, again, all the information of how to contact Jeff will be in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. thank you so much again for checking out today's episode. And if you are listening through iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are, please leave me a rating and review. Let me know what you loved, what you would like to see improved, or ideas you have for future episodes. And if you are interested in taking your business to the next level, don't hesitate to go to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can schedule a free discovery call with me, where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we can work together. And don't forget to check out my wife, Nancy, and mine, our free community on Facebook called LinkedIn Leads for Life. We would love to see you in there. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you, everyone, for your support. Grateful for each and every one of you.